There she is. Beauty celestial, the best you'll agree.
I'm just in this, I've been listening to this podcast, The Sunset Project. I think I told you about it. Oh, I didn't tell you about it. I just sent you that one thing. But I've been in a deep Sunset Boulevard hole on top of everything else because I'm listening to this amazing Sunset Project podcast. And the confluence of like Gloria Swanson and then the inspiration for Gloria Swanson in the rubble of the Roxy for the Follies poster. Look behind Daniel's, that's a different Follies poster, but you get the drill. I couldn't find my Follies t-shirt. Anyway, I'm just in this I'm like, was Gloria Swanson in Follies? I'm kind of like in an alternate universe where Follies and Sunset Boulevard are the same musical.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I forwarded you that thing today of like Andrew Lloyd Webber's wish list to replace Betty Boop.
God.
I was like, wait, are we doing Sunset Boulevard for the Roses and Daffodils? But we're not. We're doing Follies.
We're doing Follies. But I know what you're saying. Like every part of my life is now influenced by Follies. You're right, Taryn. Here it goes. Like I've been watching a bunch of Katharine Hepburn movies, and I'm just like, okay, which lady do I want her to play? Do I want her to play Carlotta or Phyllis or blah blah? There's so many possibilities.
I gotta find for you the article about the movie that never was from like 1973 or something. That was like legitimate MGM, like A-list stars, all those people in a big Follies movie musical.
Yes, please. Hello, Macon Prickett. We are making Prickett today because
you are.
Time to do the work. Good afternoon.
Real quick, make Prickett with Follies.
Make Prickett with Follies. Okay, Judy, Liza, Lorna. I mean, I guess I want Liza as oh God, it's so hard. I guess I want Liza as Sally.
Yeah.
And then I want Judy as Carlotta, and then I want Lorna as like, I guess Solange or something. I don't know.
I was gonna say, can Lorna be like Emily Whitman?
Something small.
Terrible. She'd be great in several roles.
Oh God, the comments are piling up. Douglas Famey, gotten us feeling famey. He had a comment on deck. Shout out. Sun is shining. The Tim's like springtime. You bring this. The BLT. Are you talking about a sandwich? Oh, yes, he is. It's not really pig bacon. It's a substitute. Okay.
BLT community, thanks you.
Yes, the BLT community. Isn't that like a bunny joke? She's for I'm
sure.
The BLT community.
Penis fun lesbian.
Kate is a Weissman. Yes. Caitlin Duffy Hall.
Hi.
That would be your name if you were in Follies, of course.
Who's that woman? I know her well. All dressed up, head to toe.
Or maybe Liza would be good as Hattie.
I mean, let's be honest. Liza's everything except Judy's Carlotta.
Yeah, Liza could really do all the roles. Lorna could stage manage.
Sally Durant.
Hello, Larry. Okay. Oh, God, there's more.
Cancel the show. I can't. I have too many emotions.
Hello, Sean. Hello, Eric. Yes, Macon. All right. Good God. Welcome, everyone. We have a big show, really big show for you today. Live from New York. It is Tuesday morning.
Autumn, winter, next year.
Time heals everything. It's a song. Time heals everything.
All right, we have to just start off the gate talking about Follies. There's so much. It's building. And I know our special guest for this first segment is going crazy in the waiting room because we're talking about Judy, Liza, and Lorna without him.
We've already said 12 things that he is shaking his damn head.
Right. SMDH. So let's go to Roses and Daffodils immediately and bring in our guest.
Everything's coming up, Mama.
Well, I just want to introduce Kevin. And first, I do just want to explain to everybody now that we're making Roses and Daffodils a series.
Maybe that intro music.
Yeah, so first up, no, I think it's good. It's traditional. It's a series. You know, it's traditional. It's so the Follies, obviously, as we've been talking about, is what we're doing next up, starting today. It's today. Angela Lansbury Follies go. And so I feel like Elaine Stritch when she won the Emmy, and she was like, "No, I don't clap. I don't have
time. There's no time.
That's what she said. But so the what we're doing, because Follies is a beast. I mean, you know, Gypsy is a what? Am I flopping? Because unlike Follies, unlike Gypsy, because Gypsy is a
one-woman show.
Thank you, a one-woman show. We could just do Rose's solos and cover all the important ground. I'm sure Kevin Daly disagrees, but Follies really is a several many women show and some men and all kinds of business going on, youngsters. And so because Daniel convinced me that spending 9 weeks on this was actually enough, and it didn't need to be a 22-week process to get through this. And so what we're doing is we're going to be polling every week like we did for Gypsy with the lady solos. And then for the rest of the score, we will be including it in the playlist, but some of the songs will be inviting a special guest friend of the pod, like we have a very special one to start us off today, to come on and explain the song that they, their version that they think of a particular song is the one that should be included on the Essentials Follies playlist. And then, of course, you know, Daniel and I, when we eventually get to recording the pod, if we all live that long, we may or may not listen to that suggestion, just like we may or may not follow the polls. But we reconcile between that as a force combined with what we both think. And then for the final third of the song list, they will be outside experts that are going to give us sound clips that we'll include on the actual podcast episode. So it's very multifaceted, but we're just so excited. And we're so excited. I was just saying that honestly, every time I talk about anything musical theater related on social media, all I think is, I wish Kevin Daly didn't follow me back, because he's so smart and he knows everything. And I just know that 90% of the time he's like, oh God, Rimalower, whoa. Except the truth is he's probably like, girl, I muted you 10 years ago. But regardless, he's just truly the smartest and most knowledgeable, and especially a Follies expert. And just even 2 seconds in the virtual green room that we were here with him before we got started, it was like the worst kind of editing in the world. We just had to save it all to have with everybody. So to start us off with beautiful girls from Follies, we have the beautiful girl himself, Kevin Daly, the theater aficionado.
Hi, guys.
Hello, Kevin. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here.
Now, before you even get started, I want to comment. First of all, going to tie in Gloria Swanson to Follies.
Please.
Different role, with Sunset Boulevard. You have heard the Gloria Swanson Sunset Boulevard musical, yes?
Yes.
I have.
Someone's making a documentary about that musical and the guys that wrote it. Apparently, they were the ones that Elaine references, who were like with Gloria when they were doing the women in stock. Like, you know, one was cooking up her sashimi and one was cooking up her memoirs. Those are the guys, according to the documentary people, that did that musical.
That's fascinating. I was so glad when Stage Door Records released the whole thing, because it just sort of languished for years. And it's fascinating because she treats it like a musical comedy with the happy ending and everything. It's not Sunset Boulevard. In fact, it's Boulevard with an exclamation point. But she was a light lyric soprano who probably could have been Heidi.
Wow.
She did Music in the Air in the movies, but didn't really get to sing on screen a lot. But she did have that voice. And the other thing I wanted to say was I saw darling Lorna Luft as Hattie in Follies.
Oh.
This was at...
What year was this? Because Lorna's voice has a journey, you know.
Yeah.
It was 2015 at Albert Hall in London. The one where Betty Buckley did I'm Still Here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And she was phenomenal. Joan Dienered the tempo, but the audience didn't give a shit. She just stretched it out and just belted it, and I can send it if you want to hear it.
Please. Oh my God, I definitely want to hear it.
Very much, thank you. Now, Kevin, I know you're an Andrew Lloyd Webber non-lover. Do you prefer Boulevard to Sunset Boulevard?
I don't like either one as a musical adaptation of Sunset Boulevard because I feel that neither one touches at the brilliance of the film as it should.
You're also an old movie.
But I was very entertained. I finally saw Sunset when it was brought back with Glenn a couple years ago. And I was watching it and I'm like, this is so bad, but I am so entertained.
Yeah.
That's sort of where I'm at with it. Like it's kind of craptastic and amazing at the same time. Like, I'm like, okay, these are choices that were made and we're hearing the same 3 themes over and over again for 3 hours. But how can you not just worship a diva just throwing it all out there?
Yeah.
But when it comes to it, I think about how, I don't know if it was a rumor or what, that Hal Prince and Sondheim were going to do a version for Angela Lansbury. And I feel like that's the one we should have had in the happier timeline.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Although maybe Sondheim was right when he concluded that it wouldn't adapt well, because I mean, I'm a little bit more of a fan of the musical, The Andrew Lloyd Webber Show, than you are.
Right.
But I'm not a great admirer of it. I very, very much enjoy watching it when Norma's on stage. But are you entertained? As soon as she's off stage, to me, it's like worse than Aspects of Love.
Yeah.
Well, I think about it when I was watching the show in performance and we got to the Act 1 finale, and I thought, why are we having a 6-minute number of I want, I wish from all of these people I don't know or care about? I get that it's a New Year's Eve thing, but I'm like, I don't care that you want to be in a movie next year, you ensemble person. Like, I feel like it veers, and where the film is so darkly funny and satiric, the musical sort of throws that out to be more, well, it takes it more sincerely, but it also just veers right to camp, like almost right away.
Yeah.
And I feel like it probably should have been a true opera. It probably still can be a true opera.
Or a drag queen show that leans into the camp. I think you might enjoy that by this time next year number more if it was, the RuPaul's Drag Race Hopefuls 2022.
Or if it was some sort of, I don't know. I know you had to have a scene set at Schwab's and to get him out of the house so she could try to kill herself. But like, it just goes on forever.
Yeah.
Like, can we just cut back to her? Because the thing I liked about Glenn seeing her, I know we're veering far off from Follies, but the thing I really enjoyed was the fact that, and I was having this conversation yesterday, you take the 2 complete English cast recordings of Sunset Boulevard, and I find that the world premiere recording, you have Patty and Kevin, and they're kind of understated. They're not. It's like there's something catatonic about the entire thing as it was captured. And that's not about the vocals; it's about the performances. They're subdued, and then you go to the American premiere recording, and it's like Glenn Close did some speed before she went to the studio. So, and the happy medium for that show should be somewhere in the middle. So seeing Glenn in it, she was not what the cast album was. She can't sing like she did 25 years ago either, but the performance was more shaded, more nuanced.
Yeah, but I saw her 25 years ago. She's different. Her performance in the revival was much more subdued. 25 years ago, she was like the cast album.
Okay.
She did something much more, grounded and real.
And I felt that worked for the most part. She only started to lose me during the mad scene, and that's Andrew's fault.
Yeah, right.
Because it's like I want to have I could see it. It's like I want to have my version of the Lucia mad scene, but it's Glenn Close, coming down the staircase. It's just that's where it really veered off into camp for me. But I seal clapped.
Speaking of coming down a staircase,
of course.
Tell us, beautiful girl, which version you would choose for an Essentials Follies playlist, and anything else you want to say about Beautiful Girl.
Should we go through all of them, or should I just skip right to the one?
I mean, we love an explanation what each one has to offer and where it falters.
Well, with Beautiful Girls, which is a Ziegfeld pastiche, the pretty girl is like a melody, that sort of number, glorifying the American girl. Um, it would be the original had the original cast album been complete.
Mm-hmm.
If they'd captured the entire score in 1971, that would be my choice because it is the most authentic Follies will ever be.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Bartlett is really wonderful. And he is Roscoe. He worked in the 30s as a tenor in operetta and musical comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And he even has like the diction and the rolled R's that you hear when you watch a 30s musical.
Mm-hmm.
It's all there in his performance, but it's, it's so packed in. I mean, the first track of the cast album is 4 minutes out of the first 12 minutes of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So for authenticity, you can't beat him. But so I had to go with Arthur Rubin from the Lincoln Center concert cast because it's so thrilling. And it's sort of where his operatic training meets his career in musical comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel that there are opera singers who get musicals and there are opera singers who don't. And there's no middle ground.
Yeah.
And Arthur really, he lived them. He breathed them. He produced them. He worked for the Nederlanders as vice president.
Mm-hmm.
So theater, musical theater especially, was his forte. And he came out of his performance retirement to do this performance, which he did like every 10 years. He did the Follies concert in 95. He came out of retirement again 10 years later to do Pal Joey at Encores for one similar pastiche number. And then in 2007, I got to see him one more time as Roscoe at the Encores Follies.
I didn't even realize that was him.
Yep. He came back out.
For all the ladies, I just completely missed him.
He was right there, and it was sort of like my own kind of Follies, because that was the first album that I latched onto. It was the one. There are, we have what now, 6 English language cast recordings.
Streaming.
So I guess Paper Mill isn't streaming.
No.
What else wouldn't be streaming? Is the London one streaming?
The rest are, yeah.
Okay, so makes sense. I come into this when I want to like talk about something I've listened to and I can't find it anywhere, and that's where it gets annoying because I go to YouTube and I'm like, where is it?
Yeah.
But his performance, it's such a thrilling voice. His sound, it's everything you want in that number comes through Arthur Rubin, and he has the most thrilling high notes, even in his 80s. Like on Broadway, he was in The Most Happy Fella, he was in Juno, he's in Keane, and you can always pick him out on those recordings because he's singing the high C's, the high D's, whatever it is they want him to do. And so that was really, and it was still there. He still had it in 1985, and he just, especially the end with the high A, he just holds it, and the audience has an orgasm.
The thing I love about that recording also is that you hear the live applause as all the ladies start coming down the stairs, and it's so thrilling. It's just like that, dun, 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 and then it's like, whoa, like as Carol Burnett walks out.
Yeah, it's just it's the cascade of ladies, which in the original wasn't so much the case. It wasn't staged to be like, oh, let's seal clap for him, but that concert seems to be where that kind of became a thing. Because they started from productions of that onward, like, let's cast names that are familiar. And so people know who, like, every bit part is.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I'm sure a lot of people in 1971 are like, who the fuck is Ethel Chate? I mean, that's the thing about the original Follies. Those people actually went away. They fell into obscurity. Yeah. And they worked and they maybe came back a little bit, but Follies really gave a lot of them another opportunity, especially for someone like Ethel, who, if you go and watch her on YouTube and Whoopi, she does the most amazing dance with this like 10-gallon hat. I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but you see shades of that when you watch the clips of her doing Broadway Baby on YouTube. It's like, oh, and she brought her own self into it. But getting back to this, Yeah, it would be Arthur for me. In London, you have Paul Bentley on the London cast recording, and he has a very nice
Paul
voice.
Bentley from like the Jeffersons and stuff.
No. This is no. The character was Mr. Bentley, wasn't it? It was Paul Benedict.
God damn it!
Of course, he knows.
I watched a lot of 70s TV as a child. And he was out. Paul Benedict was out the night I saw the Music Man revival. But anyway, Bentley, he's a typical, and this is something also with the National, which is what was his name? Bruce Graham. You have British singers trying to be American, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And it's more successful on the original album. You could tell he's like a Ivor Novello type operetta singer. And it's pleasant. But the National Theatre guy, Bruce Graham, he is a Gilbert and Sullivan singer, and that really comes through. He can't mask his Britishness. In fact, if you go and listen to the National recording, you get to the end of Beautiful Girls, he swallows beautiful. It's like, beautiful. You know, it just, he can't mask the fact that he's British. But what I did notice, I listened to all of these so that I could be prepared to talk to you about them. And I listened to them in chronological order. I've never done that before. There's never been a reason for me to do it, I think. Maybe, you know, some of the Divas songs, Losing My Mind or Could I Leave You, I've, you know, sat and I've been like, okay, let me compare and contrast. But this one, for the purposes of talking with you today, I popped it on from the 1971 cast album. I didn't listen to any live tapes. And the listeners here know that there are a lot of them. And what I realized is that there's a trajectory with this song and the performances of it. You sort of go from the authentic, actually was Roscoe of Michael Bartlett. You find that you meet someone who was a musical comedy performer with legit training in the Lincoln Center concert and also in the original London cast recording. And so you have that marriage, but by the time you get to the paper mill recording with Vahan Kanzadian, essentially what you have now is Follies where they cast an opera singer for the notes. And that seems to be the case in the several productions that I have seen, particularly the Broadway revival from 2011, which is my least favorite because he tries too hard. He's an opera singer and he's pushing it a lot.
So when he's like, you know, for example, if I were thinking about this, obviously I would kill myself before hearing an opera singer in one of the four leads. I mean, as a matter of fact, I find Vicki Clark too operatic. You know, I mean, like I would be way to the extreme of being against opera singers being cast in Follies. However, I would feel like in this role, I would be just give me more voice, the better. Where do you miss the musical theater know-how of an Arthur Rubin in that song?
Because it's almost like it's a pastiche of a pastiche at that point. Because it's not necessarily about serving the moment. It's about serving the music, at least to my ear. It's pushing the sound, there should be something in this that is just a little bit effortless to me. And particularly on the Broadway recording, which is a fine recording. I don't listen to it a lot. I saw that production 5.5 times, but yeah, I second it. I'm firm believer that Follies should be one act, original text.
Yes.
No revisals. Give me Story of Lucy and Jessie, and Sally should have died the first time. If you do not include that reveal at the end that Sally has had a history of depressive suicide ideation and attempt, you haven't really done Follies. You haven't given that character what she needs for Follies to really succeed. But yeah, I was hanging out in the Marriott Marquis with a friend of mine who saw it like 40 times. And an usher walked by and said, "Hey, you want to come in for Act 2? It's light tonight." So she just told us how to get in, come in through the mezzanine at the Marquis, come down the stairs to her section. She's like, "Come on." And she just waved us into some empty seats.
That should be like an app or something, like a service they provide. It's like if there's a light audience, they post, you know, $5 tickets or something, and you can go second act a show.
That's an idea. They could make more money that way.
I mean, they do that for the whole show with audience extras and play-by-play is the other one. I know because
right.
sometimes how I got people into patio shoes, you know. Second act. I'm just happy you didn't first act it. That's the that's a very different thing than second acting.
Yes, yeah.
But
I have never left a show at intermission.
Really?
I figure I'm here for the long haul, and you know, we are in this together. And there are sometimes I've regretted that choice. Matthew Broderick and the Philanthropist, but I figure there's something to be learned out of experiencing something to its completion. That might change as I get older, but so far I have stuck through some really terrible things. Roundabouts, Bye Bye Birdie.
I don't think I've ever left at intermish either. Yeah.
You have been, haven't you?
I've left at more intermissions than I've stayed at. When the romance is dead for me, it's fucking dead. I'll quit a TV series.
Oh my God.
In the middle of the series finale. I'll be like, I had enough.
I you know what? When it comes to TV, you and I are on the exact same page. A TV show does something I don't like, I'm like, you're dead to me.
Yeah.
Downton Abbey season 3 finale, I'm like, we're done.
When
I won't even sit. People are like, "Oh, aren't you excited to see Imelda Staunton in the movie?" I'm like, "I'm not going to see that movie.
Dan has beef.
I have no reason to see that movie."
No. You know what this reminds me of? I wonder if this actually inspired me. I judged these people at the time, but when I was like 16, my sister and I drove like 3 hours to go see this like stock production of Sunday in the Park with George, and it was actually like, it was fine. I mean, you know, they very much cast a Bernadette clone as Dot. She wasn't Bernadette, but she did a pretty good job of faking it, and the guy could sing and he wasn't terrible, and the set and costumes really looked like the original. And we were dying. We were so over the moon. We were obsessed with the show, and we're watching intermission. We come back, we watch the second act. They start singing Move On. She's like hitting the like, stop worrying. I mean, we're just like soaring, and this old couple sitting in front of us goes, well, I've just had about enough of this. Stands up and walks out. I'm like, you sat through the day off and hot up here, and now
the dog song.
Yeah. What?
This is so crazy.
You get to the musical climax, the release of the entire show, and you're like, no, I've decided it's not for me.
What did they not like that the two time periods were I don't know, but I'll never stop laughing about that.
No, Sunday is really I was in my college production of Sunday in the Park with George. I was also the dramaturg on it. And I was, well, here's the thing. I wasn't supposed to be in it. I was just supposed to be the dramaturg for the musical director. He asked me to come in for it. I used to he was a musical theater professor, and I used to TA his class for, I think I did it for 3 or 4 semesters. And then I also would teach for him when he was absent.
I mean, so this is nothing new.
So, well, he did, because I used the first time I was in his class, he got a date wrong the first day of classes, and I just went. So he would just start calling on me for those facts. He would just be like, "Kevin, what's the date?" But he, you know, it wasn't, you know, it's not an All About Eve situation. We were very, very close, but he loved my enthusiasm. And he also, another professor that I intimidated said, "Aren't you scared of him?" And he said, "No, he's delightful and he's charming." But where was I?
You were the dramaturg.
And Sunday, I wasn't supposed to be in it. And one of the actors that they cast, and this is, you know, a college department, everyone is expected to show up and do whatever they're assigned to do. He pulled a bit of a diva fit and said, "I am not taking on," it was the John Jellison track, all of like the bit parts that just sort of sing with the ensemble. And Jellison understudied. And this guy's like, "I'm not going to waste 2 months doing the show to not have like a real part." And so they started rehearsals, and the director and the musical director came up to me and said, "Would you be in it?" And I was like, "Okay."
Oh, I love that.
So I had to do double duty, and that was a lot of work.
It sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I told a lot of people. It's the last time I've appeared in a musical on stage to date. But I told a lot of people that I was doing it, and I had people come see it that I've known for years and years, and they're like, "Well, that was interesting." My parents were like, "Have no idea what just happened, but good job."
Good job. Well, just back to Follies. I'm curious, just because we won't be able to cover them in our podcast because, the paper mill, like I said, is not streaming, and then
But that is unfortunate. I want to yell about that for a second.
Very unfortunate. I mean, I think it has to, because it's on some weird small label.
Is it TVT? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think that's,
and it's an essential recording, not necessarily because of the performances, which are great, but because it is a complete recording of the score, and it has that appendix with all of the alternate and cut material, which is extraordinary.
Yeah,
you get to hear Dee Hoty do all of Phyllis's numbers.
I didn't know that Dee had done Abba Underneath in the show.
Yeah,
because I just thought it was. I never listened to it in order, and I just thought it was one of the bonus tracks. I didn't realize that Lucy and Jesse was the bonus track. But so we won't be covering that in the pod, and then. Also, the Encore's production, which I was a huge fan of,
it's not
tragically not recorded for, I think, no good reason that I can fucking tell.
It was probably Bobby Goldman, James Goldman's wife. She's the one who brings down the hammer on all. She brought the hammer on.
I know, but a past album, I mean, that's a different situation. But anyway. There
are a lot of encores that should have been recorded. That is one of them, but it's so hard.
Necessary things like the Sutton Foster Anything Goes CD, and there's no Follies at encores. Anyone?
And no Anyone Can Whistle.
No one can whistle. But I mean, Follies. Anyone Can Whistle. I loved that production. Donna was ideal, but people are weird with Anyone Can Whistle. But everybody just wants more Follies. Anyway, because we won't cover those, I wonder if there's any. Just little bon mots or
things that I like about it.
You want to share about those? Yeah.
Let's just skip to the encores. That was my first time seeing Follies on stage. Yeah. It's my first of now 4 productions, and Vicki Clark played Sally, and she did it in the original keys. She did it in the Dorothy Collins keys. Then she had higher keys when she did it in Los Angeles for the 2012 run. And I preferred her. I saw her on her last night, where apparently she and Sondheim agreed that she finally got it, and it was thrilling. Donna Murphy lost a shoe during Who's That Woman? Yeah, and she didn't miss a beat.
The other shoe dropped.
It was great to see Anne Rogers, even if she was just one of the Whitmans. She's West End soprano who was also Eliza Doolittle and Nono Nanette in London, and the original She Loves Me. Here's a fun thing. I have seen the original London George and Amalia in productions of Follies. Anne Rogers in encores, and then the original George, Gary Raymond, was Dimitri Weissman at the National.
Wait, and wasn't the original Broadway George then Ben in the...
He was Ben in the London, and then you have the original Amalia, Barbara Cook, at Lincoln Center. So there's...
Now the nexus is Follies, Sunset Boulevard, She Loves Me?
She Loves Me, Laura Benanti as Norma Desmond.
Fabulous Phyllis someday. Oh my God.
She'll be amazing. I would like to see her as Phyllis, Kelly O'Hara as Sally.
Yeah,
I would love that because they're 2 of our best. They also have, we never get to see our sopranos act together, which is, as a soprano enthusiast, I love it when we get them into a room together, because it almost never happens, because shows it's like, okay, we have 1 soprano and now we have a belter.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing Light in the Piazza, and then you have 4 coloraturas. But yeah, no, she'll be an incredible Phyllis. And maybe Megan Hilty for Carlotta.
Ooh, there was some tweet going around a few years ago where they were all those ladies were tweeting each other about some future production of Follies.
Right.
I like them having a voice in it.
It's like, you don't get to decide this, we do.
Yes.
Oh,
I get that. Another thing I loved about encores was Joanne Worley as Stella.
Ooh.
And she was phenomenal. I didn't really I knew that she had done On the 20th Century, and I never saw the TV shows she was on, really, so it was my real introduction, and she was just fabulous.
Wow, what an intro.
Yeah,
I loved the quartet. I felt that they should have lowered I'm Still Here for Christine Baranski.
why is that the problem? I mean, I'm the biggest Christine Baranski fan, and I even like her singing, and I thought she was so unbelievably horrible in that.
It was not her finest moment, and I also saw her as Phyllis in Follies, and that wasn't as good as it should have been.
Where was that?
That was the London one in Albert Hall.
Oh, with Lorna and Betty.
And Betty and Ruthie Henschel and Alex Hansen and Stephanie Powers as Solange, who was one of the best parts of the whole night. But
forgot about that.
But the thing about, because I'm watching I'm Still Here, and she seemed uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think it was the placement, because the end, she sort of lost some steam. Like, it was like right in that area where her voice starts to break. And I feel like they could have taken it down a third, maybe, just let it all live in a full belt. She might have been more comfortable with it, because it distracted from her interpreting it in a way that would have really allowed her to stop the show. Of course, at the time, I thought, like, why isn't Angela Lansbury doing this? Why isn't Patti LuPone doing this?
Right. Well, I'm sure they tried to get them.
I'm sure.
But, well, I mean, I remember hearing when she did MAME at the Kennedy Center that she ended the run 100 times stronger than she started. Okay. And she's not the most confident singer, especially like big belting. And maybe an encore's run just wasn't, an encore's rehearsal process wasn't enough for her to get her
particularly if, you know, she's one of an ensemble of many stars with this show, and you're not going to get the kind of focus that you get if you were the star of Applause at Encores, or you know, pick another show that she could have done at Encores, like where she would have more time to prepare and more time to rehearse, more time with the director. But the thing about the one she did in London was the director, he got the prologue right and nothing else. He put an intermission. I thought, oh, we're not getting an intermission in this Follies. Okay. Right in the middle of the breakdown into Loveland.
Nope.
We took a break for 30 minutes.
Yeah, that was very odd. Well, Kevin, you are absolutely amazing. I can't even tell you how grateful I am. This has been, I mean, I could talk to you for like 12 hours about Who's That Woman. And we'll have to have you back more. But
I can do an hour on Could I Leave You?
Yes.
Very intriguing. Very intriguing. We will hold you to that. But thank you so much. And we given us so much to think about.
Yes,
thank you for having me. This was a joy. This was a joy.
You're a joy.
Thank you.
All right, stay safe.
Wonderful.
I need to smoke a cigarette.
I know. You know, I love following. Everyone follow him on Twitter as well.
Yes.
So he's such a great Twitter follow, because not only is he knowledgeable about musical theater and Broadway, but he's really an expert on old movies and old Hollywood, and you know, that's right up my alley as well. So I really enjoy reading his content.
So much so. Yes.
Twitter, yes, absolutely.
Woo!
Well,
so I guess we could leave Roses and Daffodils for the moment, except that we should just say that we'll be doing the first poll today, which will be à Paris.
Right.
And I forgot that Stephanie Powers did that at Encores. I mean, not that she'll be in the polling, but I'm going to have to go watch that video.
That makes me so sad that there are so many of these ladies who won't be able to be in the polls because of those recordings. But, you know, that's the way the ball bounces.
I mean, the great tragedy, the way that the Betty Buckley of Gypsy in Follies is the Donna Murphy.
Oh, God. I mean, or, you know, I was thinking like last time in Gypsy, Liza was the true outlaw.
Well,
Liza, we felt
right. At least Donna got to play the role. Liza just never even happened.
And then, yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, Donna's really the one that I feel the absence.
So great. I can't even, I mean, I've loved Donna since I first saw her in what did I see her in? Passion. But I mean, so, you know, I've loved her forever. I mean, well, I didn't know her in the 80s when she was like in there playing her song, but, you know, I've loved her since her Tony winning star making role. But but Follies, I became obsessed.
Mm.
But we'll talk more about that later, I'm sure.
Well, I'm so glad Kevin came on to talk about Beautiful Girls, because I kind of what he did. I listened to them in order this morning as I was getting ready. And I never really given, I mean, I knew the song, but I never given it that much thought, but I really, really loved it. And I was taking a journey with it. And this morning before we went live, I was doing a little devotional with the Bible. And, he was talking about Beautiful Girls and how, the pastiche begins kind of mimicking the Irving Berlin, A Pretty Girl is Like a Melody, the theme song for many of the Ziegfeld Follies. So I thought for today's Name That Belt, I would do another Irving Berlin classic that we recently touched on last week with your Patti LuPone. There's No Business Like Show Business. So
there ain't.
Time for in TV.
I love you. Really sing out. You really build a song. There are very few of us left.
Okay, so for today's Name That Belt, There's No Business Like Show Business. If you guys haven't played before, if you know who it is, chime in the comments and see if you can get it before Ben.
There's no people like show people. They smile when they are low. How I wish the folks at home could only see what's come to Annie, how proud they'd be. Hey, for doing what comes naturally. Let's go on with the show.
Oh, is it Betty Hutton?
Yes.
Betty Hutton is a gap in my knowledge. I mean, I know all about her, but I really don't know her performances. Hi, Ken Russell. Hi, Judy. I didn't see you. So I need to fill in the Betty Hutton. And why isn't that movie more available and stuff? I mean, it's
actually.
Yeah, we should do a porn stream of that
for sure. Next up.
Aretha?
Yes.
Ken, you know that I'm able to take many women that others find hard to take.
Yeah. Okay. So it seems like the Betty Hutton is not a worthy corn stream.
Daniel's like, I'm not going down that road again.
Nope. Canonically, in our podcast, I really hated Judy Holliday and Bells Are Ringing. However, I watched last night this movie with Katharine Hepburn called Adam's Rib, and Betty Hutton plays, I think it's only like her second movie role. She plays the defendant in the courtroom scenes, and she is so wonderful. And I fell in love with Judy Holliday just like I knew I would. So I have to say I'm on the Judy Holliday train. Because
I definitely think it's possible to love Judy Holliday and not like the film of Bells Are Ringing.
Yes. Something I will always love, though, is our next singer.
There's no people like show people. They smile when they are low. Good for them. Win with a turkey.
Good for them.
I like the live version, the bootleg ad-libs.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Oh, God.
Too close.
That's what I call playing to the balcony. Oh, I'm right in the pocket today.
You really are. Good job. Next up, someone who also plays.
Henry. Shoshana? Ooh. Not Adina.
Yes.
Yeah? Damn, girl. What year is that? She sounds like butter.
I know. She sounds healthy.
If she did that at the Kennedy Center, Barbara would have been like...
Barbara wouldn't have been like squeezing James Brolin's
Barbara looked like she smelled a fart.
That choker was about to like burst off out of discomfort.
I usually hold that note.
I'm actually a little peckish, Jim. Can you give me those Tic Tacs in my purse? Okay, next up.
There's no people like show people. They smile when they are low.
Yeah.
She's really leaning into the Ethel. I guess she did that when she had Ethel as a guest on the Judy Garland show too.
Yeah,
Judy will be like, she'll like get a little Ethel up in there.
Speaking of Barbara, I mean, I did not pull that, but I was watching that today, the Judy, Barbara, Ethel, and that's when you first get a taste of Barbara's antisocialness, because they're both just like living it up, and Ethel's just holding court on stage, and Judy's giving it to her right back, and Barbara's a little like, please get me out of here.
Yeah. I mean, that I felt like might have been like youth and insecurity and stuff, but I guess that's a misread of Barbara.
Yeah. This song really
that was Henry's subtle way of shading my success at this round of the game.
Well, it's gonna get harder, but Barbara does look mortified.
Yeah.
This is the type of song though that I think it really, it sits well in a lot of people's voice. Next up.
There's no like show. They smile, they are low. How I wish the folks back home could only see what's come to Annie, how proud they be.
Not Reba.
Yes.
Dang. Oh, they got it. Fuck.
I think you got it first.
I don't know. Those. Well, you would know better.
Well, I mean, they may have written it.
Well, yeah. I have an advantage, and I'm still tying.
It didn't arrive to my eyes in time.
Yeah.
Okay, whoever gets this, well, you'll probably get this, but if anyone else gets this, I'm very impressed, because this is a weird cut.
There's no business like no business.
Lucy Ricardo.
Everything about it is appealing.
Everything the traffic will allow.
Nowhere can you get that happy feeling.
My sister and I used to laugh so hard at that part, because they're trying to get Ricky out of the apartment, because there's some like showbiz agent or something in the so like, or a producer, and so they're like, yeah, Ricky, like we'll see you later, and he's like, don't do anything crazy. They're like, okay. Right as they close the door, Ethel hits the note on the piano, and they immediately start. So funny.
It's funny what Danny Codmer said, that there should have been an album of Reba. Because, I mean, you think about the fact that the Paper Mill Gypsy isn't streaming, you're like, well, it's on this small label, and, like, we care, but, like, you get why it's not. But, like, clearly, if Reba wanted an album, she could have had an album. Like, was she just like, why would I want a dumb old Broadway cast recording? Like,
I think we should normalize, like, getting more cast, like, what they did with Laura Benanti's My Fair Lady. They did like the little selections. I think we should have done that for like Bernadette Hello Dolly, Bernadette Night Music. I mean, Reba, Annie Get Your Gun.
We did do it with Betty Sunset, but that's not streaming either. But I wonder though. This is total speculation. Is it possible that Bernadette's contract said no replacement cast recordings?
You mean coming from her or from the producers?
No, like Bernadette was like, I will sign this contract to star in Annie Get Your Gun for this amount of money. One of the points is when I leave the show, if you get other bitches to come play the part, they don't get a cast recording. You heard that, Patty?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I think you meant I was confused. Yes. That's interesting. That's really.
If I was her agent, I would want that. They did not do that with the Bernadette A Little Night Music.
They
did it with. They did a different thing with Brooke Shields when she took over from Rosie O'Donnell in Grease. They re-released it, substituting her tracks. What was that Bernadette thing? I'm sorry. Technically, in Betty and Sunset was a new production. What does that mean?
Brooke Shields did get a surprising amount of recordings. I mean, just if you look on Spotify, there's a lot.
The Weislers was like, you don't need to do a whole new album. This is what you do. You take the Rosie album, you delete her tracks, you put Brooke in there on top of her, and you release it with new artwork. What that accent was.
Okay, next up.
Charles Quintner. That wasn't even petty.
I love that his phrasing is so beautiful. Levels of pettiness heretofore unheard of.
I don't think it is, Taryn, but I hope I'm wrong.
It's not on Spotify because I was actually looking up Sunset last night.
I mean, I would be shocked if it was streaming because it was never even sold in stores. That was only sold at the theater. Like I had to have like a friend in New York at the time, like buy it and send it to me.
All right, next up on our playlist. Yep. Had to get Ethel in there. Whoa. She got the receipts.
Well, this was a very important day in musical theater history.
I know. Who knew it was the Sunset Follies crossover app.
It really is.
Next up.
Lee Renee?
No.
Carol Burnett?
Yep.
God damn, Carol Burnett. Wasn't it just her birthday?
Yesterday, yep.
She is always a better singer than I thought she was. I got it.
Is. I mean, I was watching a bit of the Follies concert last night, and she's just a class act.
You know what I found out about that? I've always loved her in Follies. And a lot of people have spoken ill of her performance in that, very extremely ill. Like when Uncle Mitchell gave me his like 12 version, you know, she was on his like hate list, which I didn't necessarily think she'd be his favorite, but
right.
But apparently I believe the album that she did it so low key the first night, and then Sondheim told her to belt it the second night. And then on the album, they edited them together to give it a build that it hadn't had in performance. And I think that's why My Little Judy Loving Soul, when she starts off like, good times, and by the end she's like, I'm like,
right. Save it for the wedding night.
An album, god damn it.
Save it for the wedding night. All right, next up.
There's no like show people, they smile when we are low. Yesterday they told you that you won't go far. That night you open and there you are. Next day on your dressing room they hung the star.
Who's so Jewish?
On with the show.
Is it my mom?
Excuse me.
Valerie Harper?
On with the show. Good night. Enjoy the show.
Oh yeah, Linda Lavin?
No.
No?
Good guess though. She's like she's more of a pop star, but she's written for musical theater.
Carol Bear Sager?
No. She's like
my idea of a pop star.
show business, like show business.
Not Fran Drescher.
No.
She's not a pop star.
There we go.
Oh, God, she sounded kind of bad.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
I think of her as having like a better voice than any of them.
Well, someone who has a great voice more than any of them. Next up.
There's no people like show. People they don't run out of dough. Yesterday they told you would not go far. That night you open and there you are. Next
Jessica Walter?
Will they long a star? Let's go with our show. Let's go with there's no.
Yeah, that's what I needed.
On with the show.
That's very Cece feels things deeply.
I'm a little blue ball. I really wanted her just to like let her rip at the
It's very Bernadette losing my mind.
Okay. Okay. We have a few more, and then we're.
I jizzed again. I'm so sorry.
There's no business.
If you're nasty. Is this me or the real Liza?
It's like an impression.
Though the audience is clapping, even though you're starring in the show, even though you wanted to be tapping your demon divas, I just say no.
Go!
Oh God. Okay, 3 more.
There's no people like show people. They smile when
Lauren Henderson?
No.
even with a turkey that you know will fold. Maybe strap
This is a bad recording.
Still, you wouldn't change for a sack of gold. Let's go on with the show. Let's go on with the show.
They did her dirty with that. It's not a good recording, and she looks to be very in pain. It's a British lady, one of our faves, but like this is a bad look for her. It's Ruthie Henschel, but it's
she must have been like in a real dark place at that recording. I mean,
you can see the fear in her eyes.
Wow. I mean, she didn't even. I got nothing.
Okay, 2 more.
There's no people like show people. They smile when they are low. Yesterday they told you you would not go far.
Oh, God damn it.
And there you are. Next day on your dressing room, they are on the star. Go on with the
Rosemary.
show. Let's go.
Yeah, old Rosemary.
Fabulous.
And finally, a voice for the ages.
Show people they smile when they are low. Yesterday they told you you would not go far. Today you open and there you are. Stay on your
That's really gassy.
Yeah.
Let's go. Ah,
Love that.
God.
Love.
Oh my goodness. Well, I am invigorated. I'm ready to face another day. Thank you to our guest, Kevin Daly. Follow him on Twitter, the smartest guy on Twitter. And look out for our poll, which we're releasing today. A Paris is the first lady song that we will be voting on. I think there's 5 options. And so do your due diligence and listen to them. And we love you guys, and we will see you next week.
Autumn, winter, next year. Time heals everything. It's a song. And time heals everything. But love